everybody, I'm Kristin from Magoosh. Welcome to yet another episode of Tuesday CT, and today we are talking about the ACT reading fiction passage. Now, there's a lot of students out there who really hate the fiction passage. Of course, there's others who that's their favorite one of the bunch, but regardless of whether or not you love it or you hate it, it still requires a little bit of a different eye because the ACT tests different question types on the fiction passage. And if you know what they're going to be testing, then you can be anticipating that as you read and be reading it with a little bit of a different eye so you can be picking out the details and the types of things that the ACT is going to test on the fiction passage, and you're going to be better prepared for those questions at the end without having to do as much rereading as you would otherwise. So let's talk about what the ACT focuses on the fiction passage. All right, there are three things to be paying particularly close attention to, and that is the narration of events, the revelation of character, and character relationships. Okay, let me talk about what each of these three things mean. First of all, narration of events. This is basically the story. So you're paying attention to the plot points, what happens before something else, a sequence of events. But what you really want to be looking for, this is my special hint for you, is look for the turning point in the passage. Pretty much every single ACT English fiction passages has something where something changes either internally within the character or within the plot that then really affects the outcome of that excerpt. So try to find that because ACT will almost always test you on it, or whatever the main idea of the passage is tends to hinge on that turning point. So try to find as you're reading where something happens, something changes, and that will help you keep your focus as well. All right, the second thing is revelation of character. This basically means how an author or a narrator tells you what a character is all about and what type of person they are. Are they timid? Are they wise? Are they naive? Now, there's a couple things to help you focus on to help you really pinpoint what the character is all about. And the first thing is dialogue. This is one of the ACT's favorite things to test, is how an author uses dialogue to reveal character. Now, as you probably know, a lot of times in a fiction passage, the author may not necessarily come out and say Tom was a wise person, but you'll know that he's a wise person by the types of things he says. Or Susie was a naive girl, but you'll know that she's kind of naive and innocent by the things she says. So pay really close attention to the stuff in quotes, to the dialogue. The second thing, and this is kind of my trick for really understanding tone and also character, is looking for what I call the purposeful language in the test. And what I mean by that is the language that you can tell the author is using really intentionally. So it's not just a vague word, it's a really purposefully chosen adjective or adverb or verb. So, for example, if you just saw a sentence that said, Jason told Mary to wash the dishes, that's different than Jason growled at Mary to wash the dishes. So in that case, I would underline growled. That tells me something about Jason and what type of person he is, or how he feels about Mary. So that is a purposeful language choice. And if you kind of underline that stuff as you go through, when you go back, if you need to go back to the passage, that's going to jump out at you, those purposeful language choices, and allow you to glean things such as what a character's like or tone a lot more easily. And finally, number 3 is character relationships. Typically, there is always more than one character in an ACT passage, and so if you see more than one character, pay really close attention to how they relate to one another, because the ACT will always test you on that in some respect as well too. And this means both literally, like what's their literal relationship? Are they mother and son, grandmother and granddaughter, teacher and a student? And then also how they emotionally relate to each other. So how do they feel about one another? Because the ACT loves to test you on that as well too. So be paying really close attention to the interactions between two different characters in the text. So if you pay attention to those things, the narration of events, particularly the turning point, revelation of character and the character relationships. If you focus on those three things as you read, you're going to be much better prepared for those questions that are going to follow on the fiction passage. So hopefully that gives you a little something to be looking out for. If you want to put these tips to practice, you can check out ACT reading questions and lots of other questions for everything on the ACT at act.magoosh.com, and I will see you right here next Tuesday ACT.